ReCalibur, eco-tools in youth work for collective creativity.
Hi, welcome to this ReCalibur video tutorial on a method called Comedy Workshop for Community Development. This is essentially a jump-start introduction to stand-up comedy. At the end of the workshop, participants will have their own introductory 5 minutes long comedy set. It consists of one preliminary meeting of any group size where the basics of the form are presented and then the overall plan is introduced. Then a smaller group, recommended a minimum of 6 people, maximum 12, will meet 3-4 times to brainstorm, write and rehearse their comedy material. If you have enough time, the activity may end with a final performance for a larger audience or the local community. This method works best from a minimum of 5-6 people to a maximum of around 12. It consists of 3 to 4 sessions with a duration of 2 hours each. It's ideal if the sessions are spread over a longer period of time, like a week or more, so it's best suited for longer residential settings. The special thing about this activity is that it really relies on the facilitators, in that they must have enough experience not only leading a group, but also with a specific art form that is stand-up comedy. However, with variations, it can also be adapted to make any other forms of performing arts. Drama, playback theater, improv, music jam sessions, these are all options you can explore. Depending on the specific topics, you can choose to prepare handouts and/or videos to show and analyze with the group. So a laptop or a projector, depending on the room and the setting, may be necessary. The activity is designed as a series of 4 workshops. Ideally, they will guide the group through the process of writing a short stand-up comedy performance from the initial idea to the final polished version of their sets. The first introductory session will introduce the basics of stand-up comedy as an art form, possibly through a few examples as videos. If time allows, the facilitator can also add exercises from their own experience in comedy, improv or group work to make the sessions more engaging. This can be done with any group size, but we recommend really a smaller group of 6 to 12 people ideally, so that the rest of the process that requires deeper practice and exercise can take place. In the second workshop, participants explore their possible hot topics for comedy. A good starting point is when the facilitator asks, "Why are you a fish out of the water?" and leaves 10 people 10 to 15 minutes to reflect and write down. Writing is essential to the process. Stand-up is a written form. Participants will get to the next workshop with a basic written set. A few jokes are enough as a start to an ideal of 2 to 3 minutes. Participants will take turns standing in front of the group, telling their jokes and receiving feedback. They have to notice the audience reaction, get familiar with the feeling of being live and reading the room, receive creative and constructive feedback. And so every set is made. Each participant will get a maximum of 5 minutes for their delivery, plus 5 minutes of feedback and comments from everybody else. Then the third workshop is where the sets gets polished to almost a final stage. More jokes are rehearsed and improved, and many cuts are made. At this point, changes of topics are not recommended anymore, as the sets have to go towards the final form with a time limit of 5 minutes each. If possible, a fourth workshop can be a final rehearsal where all the sets are performed as close as possible to the final format. And then, if you can, a final show can take place at the end. It's where everything happens. For the best outcome, we recommend evening time and an informal party-like setting. One facilitator takes the role of the show host or MC, and the performers will take turns delivering their sets. After the final performance, a debriefing session can take place with a larger group. The performers will debrief their experience together with the facilitators with questions like, what was the most challenging for you during the process? What surprised you the most, if anything? What went well, possibly better than expected? And everybody gives affirmative and constructive feedback to one another. On the other hand, the audience can have their own debriefing with questions like, what were the most memorable moments during the show and why? Which sets impressed you the most? Why? What can we learn from the experience? A final round of debriefing can then be done with performers and audience together to underline community aspects and the learning dimension, asking questions like, for the performers, describe briefly how was the experience for you. For the audience, how did you enjoy the show? Give affirmative feedback to the performers. And maybe a joint question for everybody. What can be the learning value from this whole experience? How can comedy make a community stronger? The general goal of the workshop is to introduce a group to the specific form of stand-up comedy and in particular to explore its use as an empowering experience. During the process, it's important to emphasize how comedy can be a powerful tool to give voice to those who don't have it. Focus on the political use of comedy and humor and to the different aspects of punching up versus punching down. Let the group discuss these aspects and develop an educated opinion. It can be a powerful experience, especially to give a voice to those who are marginalized, and having any person tell their own personal story can be an important reappropriation of narratives through the lenses of humor and comedy. Depending on the group, it may be necessary to emphasize how jokes can also be used for the opposite purpose, to divide and not to unite, to legitimize discrimination and hate, or to bring understanding and compassion. The difference is made in how each performer establishes themselves during their set, and if the jokes are perceived to come from a place of understanding and respect. It's very important that every performer understands this before they start writing. This is possibly the most important aspect of the process, to activate the dimensions of community and personal development.
ReCalibur, Eco-Tools and Youth Work for Collective Creativity, is co-founded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Commission through the Slovak national agency Nava.